I'm going to start with a poem that appeared recently in the Lothlorien Poetry Journal, and it's called You Again. And you were mentioning philosophy, so we'll start with the philosopher. This is a quote by Milan Kundera. The idea of eternal return is a mysterious one, and Nietzsche has often perplexed other philosophers with it. Philosophers are too easily perplexed. When the warmth returns and the sap rises eternally, we return to the scene of the crime, to home, to the scene of the crime, which is home. We return. First the mind wanders back to a golden past of less silver hair. Then you reach out, and I know what you are thinking. It feels random, but it is no more random than a revolution of the earth. It is the way of magnets, of gravity. Moons pull tides, and planets pull moons and other planets into revolution. And as sure as there will be revolution in the streets again and on the campuses, and as sure as revolution will bring the nightsticks and tear gas and rubber bullets, and as sure as revolution will prove we have never learned a thing, we will never learn. We will eternally return.
Ciao!
This poem was based on an argument I had once with John Brantingham, which I think everybody here knows, loves, and wishes were back on the West Coast. John Brantingham, you see, really wanted us all to write nature poetry. And I grew up in South Los Angeles. I am the wrong person to write nature poetry. I don't even camp. To me, that's called spending too much money to pretend to be homeless. So I've tried a couple of times, and I finally wrote one just to sort of end the argument. It's called The Glacier. We had hiked all day, and before us at last loomed the glacier, an impossible wall of ice sparkling in alpine sunlight. Brilliant, diamond, inexplicable, inevitable, it shrank us in our own estimation, reminded us of our little space in the face of the vastness of the natural world. We were wrong, underestimated our powers. When you returned, it had shrunk. The work of our hands creating the world anew. And who is to say we will not improve on the artistry of the old gods? Who is to say what we will do now that we know we will outlive the glacier? All right, so my book, Herstories, I don't know how many of you also had an experience. It was November of 2016, and for some reason, I was sitting in a corner of my kitchen in the fetal position crying.
Oh, yep.
All right? And I'm not usually a poet. I'm usually a teacher. But I started writing a lot of feminist poetry because I needed to get some stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the book comes from. That's where Herstories comes from. And this particular poem, oddly enough, I was asked for it by a Vietnam War poetry website who apparently did not know what they were getting themselves into. Because the website in general is a place where American poets write about going to Vietnam and killing people, but mostly they write about coming back after that and feeling sad. So it's that way that America tends to center America. But this poem is called Hai Ba Trung. It's about a Vietnamese legend, and it was dedicated to a former student of mine, Julie Vo. And Julie is a magnificent activist and force of nature in Orange County in the Vietnamese community. And she had been going through some stuff, so I wanted to write something to encourage her. So this is Hai Ba Trung. When the men come, when they say to us, we are warriors and emperors, you shall submit to us. When they say, you are the moon, you shall reflect our light. When they say, we shall rule this land and your bodies are ours. When they say the gods have ordained it, their prophets foretold it, and all wisdom affirms our preeminence is both natural and just. My sister, may we then be like those sisters, beloved of their father, who stood on the backs of elephants and led into battle an army of men and women who would not be conquered, women who each had many husbands because they refused to learn submission or chastity, may we, like those sisters, make a pact that if we succeed, we shall, as they did, proclaim ourselves kings and birth our own nation. And may we, like those divine sisters, choose the time of our passing, drowned but never bowed. May we nourish the land for 1,000 years, and when the last invader is beaten back, arise, venerated as gods, celebrated in song and tale. On the walls of the cities, let them paint us majestic, two sisters cheerfully riding elephants forever into battle. When the Americans came, they made excuses. They said the women fought because the Viet Cong were desperate. They made movies in which boys are surprised by the girl with a gun. Name that 80s film. That's Full Metal Jacket. Her braids flow behind her. They declare her unnatural. Arrogant fools. They did not learn what China has known for 2,000 years, what you taught me 20 years ago, that there is a land where sisters are born to lead, to struggle, and to rule.
Ciao!
This one's for Erica Gutierrez, a beloved friend and colleague who is here today. And it is intended as a warning about the men we choose to love, and it's called La Llorona.
Mhm.
It's still the same old story.
Yep.
No. The faithful, right? The faithful wife learns her husband has a younger woman. She runs mad, she vows revenge, she kills their children. It's as old as Medea, as old as La Llorona. But she is not a man. She cannot live with what she has done. She drowns herself. But she is not a man. A death sentence is not enough. She must wander for all eternity and weep. The children are told if she finds you wandering at night, she will drown you too. It may be protection, keeping them safe from the fast-flowing river at night. It may be an excuse, someone to blame when the body washes ashore. As little as it's talked about, fathers kill their children more often than mothers do, and far more often than La Llorona. It's still the same old story. He was rich, she was poor. He would not marry her if she had children, and so. He did not like the children from her first marriage. He would not marry her if they existed, and so. She is crying over spilled milk, y pues. She is a bag of coffee. She is a pair of underwear, and so on. It's still the same old story. In the Florentine Codex, an Aztec prophecy speaks of a woman weeping for her children. It's like the biblical Rachel. It's a harbinger of apocalypse. And when Montezuma II saw Chihuahua, goddess of fertility, and the 7 other portents of the end times, the ships of Cortez reached the harbor. With Cortez came his interpreter, his slave, Malinche, La Chingada. It's the same old story. A woman bears what she must to survive, but the children she bore Cortez, she drowned when he left, so great was her hatred of the conqueror of her people. But the same old story is often a lie. The faces of Mexico, her mestizo people, tell a different story, one where her children live and a nation is built of hijos de la chingada.
Mhm.
And still she weeps for them, ripped from their culture, history, languages, religion, nation, empire. They will never know what they have lost, but she remembers, and La Llorona weeps for the loss of her children.
Ciao!
So I am a mother of first-year vocal arts student at Cal Arts, which is more expensive than it sounds. And my friend Nijara Vachekovitz, when she gave birth, said, "You forgot to tell me." And I did. And so I wrote a poem for her that's also in the book. It's Motherhood for Nijara Vachekovitz, partly because she said all of the poems about motherhood had lied. I forgot to tell you before the baby was born. I am sorry. I will tell you now what it means. Motherhood means fear. I, who once ran towards the sound of gunfire, am now anxious every time she walks with friends to the park. We thought our mothers worried too much. Do you remember? It will be fine, we told them. I'll be fine. We did not know how the world conspires always to destroy children, how sharp its edges, how many heights to fall from, how subtle its diseases, how daily, minutely the threats converge, how much more clearly we see them all in all their terrifying possibilities. Now they direct themselves at those we love more than ourselves. You will never live fearlessly again. I should have told you. I should have told you. Motherhood forms a leash. You are in two places at once, never whole until reunited. The womb aches, the breasts drip. It is so unseemly. It is bondage, slavery. Do not say it is willing. None of us knew this would happen. I should have told you. But I do not have the words for how motherhood exhausts, how the words bone tired fit precisely. Now, the days you want to hold on to and remember are spent in a fog, stumbling, spent. Sleep is an old friend you miss so much. You wake tired. I think of the women during the war. What would it mean at such a time to be a mother? To pile on fears, to live like a soldier, knowing there might be a moment you would say and mean death first, because in the face of the tiny face of your immortality, what is your life? To ache at the thought of what men can do, did do to children in war, to know that we would feel both our pain and theirs with equal immediacy, to hold our children and not sleep, holding in peace as in war, the delicate hope that they will build lives worth all we have given and all we have not yet been asked to give. And when I speak of the war, it's because Nijara Pejakovic came to the United States during the Bosnian conflict as a teenager, I believe. Okay, so the next couple, and there's only going to be a couple more, are not from the book. These are more recent ones, so new stuff.
Yay.
Yay! This one's called Invasive Species. They are easy to hate, the jacaranda trees. So obvious, a flurry of lavender bloom, the smell and the mess of kamikaze flowers bleeding on the sidewalk. Good thing they only blossom those few weeks as spring turns to summer. Can't miss them today in their profusion in the clear suburban skies. I see them. And I see the ones on 79th Street, glowing against the gray-brown 70s LA skies when the sunsets burned like they never do anymore. Or in the moments before sunset, when the light went diagonal and sparkling and golden in the smog. Do not tell me it was not beautiful, I remember. Like green and purple and brown gems of broken glass glistening on the sparkling concrete by the corner liquor store where we bought grape now-and-laters, which oozed the flavor of jacaranda. That store survived the rebellion, though the one on the next corner where we were told not to go, that one burned to the ground. A mere month after the fire, the jacarandas bloomed again.
Ciao.
And this last one, that one I wrote because of the most recent fires and because I have come to the age where I cannot just see the most recent fires when I see the most recent fires, but I see whatever fires I've seen before then. This last one is about all this that we're in right now. So I guess this one's political. It's called Interesting Times. And I think I need a better title because Chinese curses shouldn't be used for everything, right? It always begins with a vote. There is hate and resentment and fear, always fear. They know what they want. They can see it in the rear view. The past is so clear. They can march to it together, lockstep, goose-step, machines of war and greed, the artifice of their intelligence masked, soulless voids. But we do not run the trains on time. We, who are the chaos of cats, who march to the future like a natural disaster, some in a shuffle, some in a pirouette, never in the same direction because there are so many futures. And we are gifted with visions. They scrape against each other, scratch the paint, and dent the bumper, and sometimes twist the frames as we press on. We have no hiding place these days. Between the cameras and the massive blobs of data streaking across the floorboards of the rooms where we plot resistance, and in the barren field where once stood the trees we cut down to make the floorboards, there are no shadows. So we must object in broad daylight. We gave them notice of who we were and all we had done, gave it freely on side after side, and it was free then, we pay now. So let it be, as we dance, as we paint brilliant swirls on the paths we travel, even if they lead to Salvadoran prisons. In the end, our only justification is that we are human in all its frailty and bittersweet joys and short-sighted desires. We survive even after our worst ideas murder us in the millions. We rise giddy and generous and proud after the bombs fall, survey the day's new damage, and get back to work, to the work of loving each other just as recklessly as we can. Thank you.